that are found in these areas. And the proof for that is you find some people in such countries, in such places, who may not be Muslims. They're not Muslims. Yet this is how they deal with their women. Still, so this means it's not really a religious issue. It is rather a cultural problem. And Islam came to fight against these cultural issues. But you have some precipitates that carry through. And this is how some people treat them. Second, not only in Muslim countries, not only in what you can call, what they call third world countries, even in developed countries. 2-3 weeks ago, I was reading here in the papers, here in Canada. They said that women CEOs earn a lot less than men CEOs in this country. Now, can we say that this is the reason because the law, the Canadian law dictates this, therefore this is the way it is? I mean, it's not logical. There is this culture that people have that carries through. Now, nonetheless, so what we're trying to say here is that what you find sometimes, certain practices do not reflect the laws of the religion, what the religion dictates. The religion of Islam is a religion that came to liberate humanity, including women. And that's why you have, surprisingly, subhanAllah, brothers and sisters, if you remember, just look at us. Over the past 2-3 years that we've seen converts convert here in the center. How many of them are women? The majority of them are women. How many times we've had people, as recently Facts speak the truth. Nonetheless, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, do you want to give a lecture as well, Hajj? The religion dictates something. People practice. So the Prophet ﷺ says, seek knowledge. Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi. He tells Kumail, Ya Kumail, al-ilmu khayrun min al-mal. Ilm is better than knowledge. Is better than wealth, money. Knowledge is better than wealth. Why? He gives him a very good reason. He says, al-ilmu yahrusuk wa anta tahrusul mal. Ilm protects you while you protect money. You have to keep your money in banks, really look after it. While knowledge protects you, looks after you. Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi one day brought, it was the day of Eid, Eid al-Adha. The one who narrates the story is a man by the name of Al-Sha'bi. Al-Sha'bi is one of the ulama of our brothers, one of their ulamas, Al-Sha'bi. Al-Sha'bi says, I went to see Al-Hajjaj in a city in Iraq known as Wasit. The city of Wasit, Hajjaj built it himself in the year 83-84 after Hijrah. And he called it Wasit, which means what? What does Wasit means?
In the middle.
Middle, accento, middle. Because it falls in the middle between Basra, Kufa, Baghdad, and Ahwaz. Ahwaz. It falls right in the middle. So he built that city. And then later he was buried there in the same city as well, Hajjaj. He was buried in the same city. Nonetheless, Al-Sha'bi says, I went with Al-Hajjaj to see him on the day of Eid. He prayed Salat al-Eid and he gave the khutbah. So this Hajjaj is giving khutbah and he said he gave a good khutbah as well. Nonetheless, we won't comment on that. So he says, then he told me, Sha'bi, come. So I went with him to his court. He sat down, he said, today is what day? The day of Eid. What Eid? Eid al-Adha. He says, so what are we supposed to do in this day? He says, how to recommend to sacrifice? He says, that's why I'm going to bring a man, I'm going to sacrifice him. He said, Sha'bi said, I told him, Ya Hajjaj, it's better you follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. The sunnah was to sacrifice a sheep, not a human being. He said, no, this human being, he contaminates people's minds. He distorts the truth. I will bring him and I will make you a witness that he deserves to be killed. He said, no, don't make me do that. He said, no, you have no choice. You'll be my witness that this man deserves to be killed. Today I'm going to make him my sacrifice. They bring who? Sha'bi says, I saw Yahya ibn Ya'mur. Yahya ibn Ya'mur was a great man, a noble man, a qari of Quran, a teacher of Quran, a follower of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. He brings him. He tells him, you claim to be a leader in Iraq? Yahya said, no, I am one of the fuqaha in Iraq. I am one of the fuqaha, jurists. I'm not a za'im, a leader. Faqih, yes, a jurist. He said, and you claim that Hassan and Hussein are from the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, min dhurriyyati Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Isn't that not true? He said, yes, that is true. So Hajjaj turns to Sha'bi, says, see, what did I tell you? This man distorts people's mind. He tells people that Hassan and Hussein are the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, from his progeny. This is his crime. This is his crime. What we see today when men or people attack the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam really is nothing new. The traditions of those men. Same. So, Hajjaj tells him, what is your proof for such a claim? And he tells Sha'bi, watch, I'm going to kill him. What is your proof? Because my proof comes from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hajjaj says, book of Allah. He turns to Sha'bi, he says, Ya Sha'bi, do you have an ayah in the Quran that suggests that Hassan and Hussein are the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi? Wa alayhi from me, not from him. Sha'bi says, I thought for a few seconds, for minutes, I couldn't come up with an ayah. So I thought to myself, too bad. It's too bad to see a man like Yahya ibn Ya'mur going to be killed today. It's too bad. He's a alim, he's a scholar. Sha'bi respects him. Nonetheless, so Hajjaj then thinks thinks for a few minutes himself. He says, maybe you're referring to the ayah of mubahala. Ayah of mubahala. Let us call our, children and your children, our women and your women, children and your children. Abna'ana wa abna'akum. That's what you're referring to, maybe. Sha'bi says, I felt happy. That's good. Yeah, this is a really good ayah. This really proves that Hassan and Hussein are the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, Sha'bi didn't cross his mind. Yahya ibn Ya'mur said, even though that ayah is great and is a sufficient proof to prove that they are of the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, yet I don't really mean this ayah, another ayah. Hajjaj, Sha'bi says, I saw his face turn yellow and he became so angry and he looked at Yahya. He said, if that ayah does not really prove what you're claiming, I'm going to kill you. But if it does, I will give you 10,000 dirham. 10,000 dirham. So Yahya ibn Ya'mur said, sure. He said, he turned to ayah 84 from Surah Al-An'am. He said to him, Ya Hajjaj, tell me, Allah says, وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِهِ دَاوُودَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ, and among his progeny is Dawood and Sulaiman. Hajjaj said, yes. He said, who is his in this ayah referring to? He said, Ibrahim alayhi salam. He said, so Dawood and Sulaiman are of the progeny of who? Ibrahim alayhi salam. He said, okay. He said, Ya Hajjaj, can you continue the ayah for me, please? Hajjaj then continued, وَأَيُّوبَ وَيُوسُفَ وَمُوسَى وَهَارُونَ وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. He said, okay, you know the prophets, I just mentioned their names. So all of them are the progeny. He said, can you continue on to the next ayah, please? Move on. He said, وَزَكَرِيَّا وَيَحْيَا وَعِيسَى وَإِلْيَاسَ. Zakaria, Yahya and Isa. He said, oh, hold on a second. So Isa is of the progeny of Ibrahim alayhi salam? He said, yes. He said, how when he did not have a father? How is he of the progeny of Ibrahim? He said, through his mother Maryam. He said, so who is closer? Maryam's relationship to Ibrahim or Fatima to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam? And who is closer? Hassan and Hussein to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam or Isa to Ibrahim alayhi salam? Sha'bi says, I saw Hajjaj boiling in anger, boiling. And he looked at him and he said, this time you managed to escape. He said, give him the 10,000 dirham, may Allah not make him happy with it. Get out of my face. And he left. So ilm, as Amir al-Mu'mineen Salamullah alayhi says, knowledge protects you, saves you. Whereas you have to look after money. You have to save it. You have to look after it. And that's why Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen also tells Khomeini, he continues. He says also, money decreases when you spend it. When you spend money, it decreases. But when you teach, when you educate, you increase in your knowledge. To teach is to learn. That's the saying. There's a saying. To teach is to learn. Why? Because when you give knowledge, it does not decrease, it increases. Students start asking you questions, you start to investigate, and so on and so forth. And then later on, he also tells him, Ya Khomeini, those who treasure wealth, money, they have perished, even though they're alive. Those who have money, they're dead, even though they may be alive. They're dead. However, ulama, scholars are alive for eternity. For eternity. Indeed, take a look at someone like a Shaykh al-Mufid, he died over 1,000 years ago. Yet his books are still being studied and taught. Shaykh al-Saduq, his teacher, even earlier than him, he is one of the people who are muhaddithin, muhaddith. He narrates the ahadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. The student of Shaykh al-Mufid, al-Sharif al-Murtada, the compiler of Nahj al-Balagha, the other student, Murtada is the faqih, the alim. Sharif al-Ghadi, the compiler of Nahj al-Balagha. Those people died 1,000 years ago, give or take. Yet look at their ilm, their knowledge. It's as if they're alive still. The way that their knowledge is being studied and their names are being mentioned, as if they're still alive. So knowledge is extremely important. Knowledge is very useful. Our Quran, our Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam always recommend. So, if you take a look at the title, then it sounds ironic when we say knowledge, friend or foe. Could knowledge be an enemy of someone? From what we have just said, knowledge appears to be a friend, useful, beneficial. This knowledge, can it really be the opposite, an enemy, a foe? And the answer is yes. How so? When so? The Prophet ﷺ describes to us in a hadith that he gave to Abu Dhar al-Ghafari, radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi. If you can, brothers and sisters, find the admonishments the Prophet gave to Abu Dhar, radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi, read them. Amazing. Abu Dhar al-Ghafari, radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi, says, one day I went to Masjid Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. I saw the Prophet is by himself only with Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. That is something rare. In Medina, the Prophet is hardly by himself. He's always surrounded by people. This one time, he was by himself only with Imam Ali alayhi salam. That's it. He says, I seized this opportunity. The Prophet by himself, this is something to take advantage of. This is the true mu'min. True mu'min. This is some lesson for us to learn from, that to take advantage of opportunities, situations. Here is an opportunity to learn. Abu Dhar al-Ghafari does not give up that opportunity. He runs to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says, Ya Rasulullah, adni, admonish me. The admonishment is found in Arabic in a book called Makarim al-Akhlaq by Tabrasi. Makarim al-Akhlaq, you can find it. There is a translation of that, you'll find it in that book. Otherwise, you can find it maybe in some other books as well. Nonetheless, the Prophet starts admonishing Abu Dhar al-Ghafari, telling him, Ya Abada, Ya Abada, Ya Abada. One of the things that Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells Abu Dhar al-Ghafari, he said, Ya Abada, O Abu Dhar, إن شر الناس منزلة عند الله يوم القيامة. One of the worst, indeed, indeed, the Prophet emphasizes, one of the worst people, among the worst people, status before Allah on the day of judgment are the following. People who have the worst status, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, God forbid. Who? One, عَالِمٌ لَا يُنْتَفَعُ بِعِلْمِهِ. A alim, a scholar, who people do not benefit from his knowledge. Doesn't benefit, do not benefit. Somebody studies, becomes knowledgeable, a alim, person becomes a doctor, but he says, forget it, I'm not going to treat anybody. I don't want to treat people. Or somebody becomes a faqih, he says, I'm not going to educate people. I'm not going to teach people. It is a duty upon people to educate. That's why we read in the dua of our fourth Imam, Ajalallah Ta'ala, Sharif. Dua of Allahumma inna nas'aluka tawfiq al-ta'a wa bu'd al-ma'siyah wa subhaniyah and so on and so forth. There, وَتَفَضَّلْ عَلَىٰ عُلَمَائِنَا بِالزُّهْدِ وَالنَّصِيحَةِ. Oh Allah, bless our scholars, ulama, to be zahid, zahid, God-fearing, to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to fear Allah, not to go after dunya, and to admonish, to teach. So it is a duty upon the ulama, the scholars, to teach. If a alim has that knowledge but does not teach, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, then this individual is one of the worst people on the day of judgment. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. Such person is one of the worst. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. Some people, they have knowledge, but they don't get people to benefit from it. That is one kind. One. Two, he said, وَمَنْ طَلَبَ عِلْمًا لِيَصْرِفَ بِهِ وُجُوهَ النَّاسِ إِلَيْهِ لَمْ يَجِدْ رِيحَ الْجَنَّةِ. And when a person seeks knowledge, what for? So that he can gain people's respect and authority. That is his sole reason. If that is his reason, this person, according to the hadith, لم يجد ريح الجنة. In other words, he will not even smell the fragrance of Jannah. In other words, he will not even get near it. This is interesting, that statement. This is interesting. Have you, brothers and sisters, sometimes walked by a shop in the mall, maybe, a fragrance shop, and maybe from a distance of 10 meters you can smell what? Perfume. You have not yet entered into the shop. You have not gone into the shop. But from a distance, let's say maybe 10 meters away, you can smell what? The perfume of the shop. Jannah has a perfume, fragrance, that is smelled not from 10 meters away. Some hadith suggest 500 years away. Only Allah knows what that means. We don't really understand. We don't have that concept. Because when we talk about years, we think of our years. But in the akhirah, we don't know if these years are the same years as our akhirah. We don't know. Allah says a day that is equivalent to 50,000 years of what they count. One day. So imagine 500. So inshallah, we are among the people of Jannah, inshallah. Once Allah assigns, once Allah blesses us, a mu'min, inshallah we're with them, that he is assigned to go to Jannah. That mu'min, inshallah, will start smelling the fragrance of Jannah. Inshallah, we're among those people, inshallah. And wal-'iyadu billah, not be among those others, wal-'iyadu billah, who will be dragged towards Jahannam. The Prophet ﷺ says, a person who seeks knowledge so that he can gain status, authority over people, this person will not even smell the fragrance of Jannah. He won't get anywhere near it. Now a person here will ask, or can ask, well, our ulama, our fuqaha, may Allah bless them all, they have a status. They have people respect them. In some cases, the fuqaha, at sometimes in history, they may have achieved places in the government. They may have achieved ministry positions. Does that mean, wal-'iyadu billah, God forbid, that they're not among the people of Jannah? And the answer is depending on the niyyah, intention. This is the intention. Niyyah is very important. Intention is very important. To evaluate any action, any person, there are 4 important criteria. One is his intentions. What are the intentions? 2 is how he goes about doing that action. How he goes about doing it. A person has good intentions, but the means he seeks to get to his goals are inappropriate. Some people, for example, say, I've heard this many times, they say, many people who are non-Muslims enjoy music. So music is a good way to attract people to Islam. Now I understand music is halal music and haram, based according to some of our fuqaha, they classify. What I'm referring to, those people are suggesting the haram music, not the halal ones. They say, we should have a concert, for example, and we invite people to Islam through this concert. Well, the intention might be good. Intentions maybe are good. And the goal is good. You have people you want to become Muslims, for example, or educate people about Islam, or tell people about the spirit of Islam, that this concert, for example, is for charity. The intentions are good, the goals are good, but the mean is haram. The mean is haram. The hadith says, لا يطاع الله حيث يعصى. Allah cannot be obeyed through means of disobedience. So here, that's how we can evaluate a work, an individual. So sometimes the intention is corrupt. Sometimes the means are corrupt. Sometimes it is not that. The volume of the work also reflects the volume of the work. What do I mean by the volume of the work? Many people have written books of dua, but look at Mafatih al-Jinan. Subhanallah. Mafatih al-Jinan. It is found almost in every Shia center in the world. Almost in every Shia house in the world. Out of all the books of dua, today if you go have a chance to go in a Muslim library, a bookstore, you see how many books of du'as there are. Tens, if not hundreds. How come this book indicates the sincerity of the author. His sincerity. SubhanAllah. That's how one can evaluate the sincerity of Shaykh Abbas al-Qurtubi. One way of evaluating his genuine sincerity. So the niyyah, the means, the volume of the work, and finally, it is the result of the action. The result. What is the result of the action? These are 4 ways to evaluate some action, to evaluate some work that people commit and do. So here, the ulama, when they study قربة إلى الله تعالى. But then as they gain this knowledge, their intention is to teach, to educate people who invest their time serving Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Allah raises their status. In dunya and in the akhirah. It is Yahya ibn Ya'mur that I just mentioned with Al-Hajjaj. Al-Sha'bi was not a follower of Yahya ibn Ya'mur, yet he respected him. He gave him respect. Because why? This man was an obedient servant of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Sa'id ibn al-Jubair, another victim of Al-Hajjaj, another mu'min. He was a servant of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Qamba, the servant of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi, a victim of Al-Hajjaj. He was a servant, literally, of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi. Qumay ibn Ziyad, another victim from the atrocities of Bani Umayyah. Yet, look where he is and where they are. Maytham, At-Tamar, and anyone who serves Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam with ikhlas, sincerity, Allah raises his status in dunya and in the akhirah. Because the one whom he serves are the most honorable people of Allah's creation. Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. If someone serves Ahlul Bayt, he's serving the most honorable of God's creation. And Allah will respect that. Allah honors that. So, the intention is important. The Prophet, what he's saying is that anybody who seeks knowledge just for the sake of getting authority, that, wal-'iyadu billah, that intention is wrong. And that intention will make him, wal-'iyadu billah, not even see that or smell the fragrance of Jannah. That is 2, a second person. So one was a person who is a alim, but does not apply his knowledge, does not want to teach people, does not want to educate people, when it is a duty of a alim to teach. 2, a person who seeks knowledge but with the wrong intention. The intention of what? To gain people's respect. 3, the Prophet ﷺ says, Ya Aba Dhar, man ibtagha min al-ilm liyakhda'a bihi al-nas, lam yajid riha al-jannah. Anyone who seeks knowledge to misguide people, wal-'iyadu billah. The first person, his intention was to gain authority. The second one, his intention is to use this knowledge to misguide people, wal-'iyadu billah. You look at some of those rulers of Bani Umayyah. Some of the rulers of Bani Umayyah. They understood where haqq was. They understood it. They knew where it was. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan had the knowledge. In fact, I mentioned this in the past. I said Abdul Malik ibn Marwan used to be referred to as the pigeon of the masjid. Because he's always where? In the masjid. You know, when you go to some masajid, some mosques, you find some pigeons always there. He was referred, given that title. He's always there. And there's a pigeon. And some of the brothers, they consider him to be among the scholars. Also one of the ulama. They consider him to be a alim. In fact, Al-Sha'bi, this man who was with Al-Hajjaj, Al-Sha'bi, he went to see Abdul Malik ibn Marwan one day. He said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, he said, I hear that you started drinking. Is that true? He told him, I wish it was only drinking. He said, there is nothing, no sin in the book of Allah that we have not committed here. We killed people, We terrorized people, we stole the people's money, and I wish it was only drinking. No. Wish was that. When the news came to him, the messenger came to him in the masjid, he was in the masjid reading the Quran. He said, Ya Abd al-Malik, sad news. What is it? Your father Marwan has died. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. But there's some good news. What is it? You've become the Khalifa. Oh! مع السلامة. ودافس. هذا فراق بيني وبينك. I don't need you anymore. The Quran. He closed it and he shelved it. That was Abd al-Malik. He did not know where the haqq was. Indeed he did. In fact, on the last day of his life, it is narrated, he looked out of his window, or his Porsche. Not the Porsche, not that car. He was looking out of his Porsche in his palace towards the river. He saw a person, in Arabic they call him Qassar. Qassar is a person who washes laundry, clothes. Back in the old days, people used to give their clothes to somebody, especially the wealthy ones. The wealthy people would not go themselves to the river and wash their clothes. They give it to someone. This is his job. He goes, he washes all the clothes. You know, today is like, dry clean sort of service, in modern days. Dry clean. He washes everything, dries it all, brings it back, and he takes money for it. From his window, he saw a qassar, someone who washes clothes. He said, it is narrated, he said, I wish I was that man. And I wish I did not have this kingdom. I wish. Why is he wishing this? You ask. If he's a mu'min, if he's a muttaqi, if he's a pious man, why would he wish that? Because he knows what's going on. He knows what he's committed. He knows he's the one who assigned Al-Hajjaj as a governor. A man who killed and killed and killed. That it is said when he died, 100,000 people were in his prisons. 100,000 in his prisons. He used to enjoy killing people, Hajjaj. Enjoy. Like I mentioned, on the day of Eid, he was to sacrifice a human being. That was his joy. Sometimes he would put people in prison in the heat of the sun with no roof. A mother one day came to see her son. She did not recognize him because he had been burnt from the sun. He'd been burnt from the sun. This was Hajjaj. He assigned, he puts it as a government. So who's responsible for all this bloodshed? And he himself knows. He says, if every society, community in the world today brings their worst man and we bring Al-Hajjaj to compete against them, we will win. We will win. So with this knowledge of yours, that's why on that last day he says, I wish I had that job. I wish I did not become the Khalifa. And this Qassar, this man heard him, the washer. He said, Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah, the one who made them wish to be in our position and made us not wish to be in their position. Alhamdulillah. Truly a ni'mah. So what we do with money when it's going to be like in his end. And that's what Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam refers to in Nahj al-Balagha. Amir al-Mu'mineen in Sermon 109, according to the interpretation of Sheikh Muhammad Abdu. According to his interpretation in Sermon 109, Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi says, وَيَتَمَنَّى أَنَّ الَّذِي كَانَ يَغْبِطُهُ بِهَا وَيَحْسُدُهُ عَلَيْهَا قَدْ حَازَهَا دُونَهُ. He says, when death approaches to a person, when death becomes a reality, and the person starts to see what is awaiting him, because in the hadith it is said, as death starts to approach, a mu'min and a kafir, wal-'iyadu billah, will start to see what is awaiting him. Paradise or wal-'iyadu billah, Jahannam. He'll start to see that. When that comes, this individual who's been forgetting about Allah and the Akhirah, when he sees the reality and realizes what is awaiting him, he will start to wish that those people who were envying him and jealous of him to take his position, they would have taken his position. He would start to wish that. So now Abdul Malik said, I wish he would have taken my khilafah. Say subhanallah. Exactly as Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam described. This man is amazing. Ali ibn Abi Talib salam. The way he describes things. And I've said this in the past. The way he describes death, especially. It is as if the one who's seeing the picture quite clear. Not someone who hears. That's why Ibn Abi al-Hadith says, I've read so many works about death, but nothing really shakes me and moves me like the words of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Nothing. And we unfortunately have neglected this book, Nahjul Balagha. We have not looked at it the way it deserves. Nonetheless, a person who seeks knowledge who misguide people, this person would not even get near Jannah. People sometimes seek knowledge to confuse people, to contaminate their minds. And in this day and age, we have many of our youths who are going, for example, and studying in some universities, some theories that are being introduced to them as laws. And so they get confused with this knowledge. Many times people come and ask, what does Islam's take on the theory of evolution? What does it say about it? Some people are genuinely confused. They say, they're presenting all these proofs for the theory. I remind them and say, evolution is a theory, not a law. Although it is being taught as if it was a law. Not a law, it's a theory. Yes, they bring some evidence for it. But there are many other scientists who disagree with it. Many scientists, one of them is a professor of biochemistry at Lehigh University by the name of Michael Behe. He's a biochemist. He says there is no such thing as evolution. In fact, and he's written a book about it. You can look at it. His theory is that there is the intelligent design theory, intelligent design. There is a designer for this whole world. It may not necessarily be the God, Allah, but there is a designer. There's someone who designed this world. And he brings his proof from his experiments as a biochemist. He studies bacteria, the cell, the bacterial cell. So he came to this conclusion. Another man who followed his suit by the name of Jonathan Wells, also a PhD doctor at Washington State. He's written another book, also complementing Michael Behe's, The Intelligent Design Theory, where he challenges the theory of evolution. So there are scientists who are arguing against this theory of evolution. And in fact, there was a push to start introducing this intelligent design theory in universities, in schools, because it's a theory. There's evolution theory and then there's intelligent design theory, so why not teach it? But they said, no, this will bring back creationism. This brings back creationism, and we don't want it. So it was shut down. So the way sometimes, and then when people say, well, scientists bring, for example, an example of the viruses. A virus sometimes changes, mutates. And that's why they bring some drugs to target certain viruses, like the AIDS virus. But the AIDS virus mutates, changes. So that's a proof of evolution. Say, okay, if that is the case, this does not necessarily prove that we came from apes. This does not prove it. Yes, there is such a process. What this may suggest, is it possible? You ask, is it possible that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the virus this way and gave it this mechanism to protect itself? Would that not be possible? They say yes, and then there's another possibility. So your theory here that just because the virus mutates is a theory of evolution is a proof that we came from and our ancestors are apes and so on and so forth. That's not quite valid. And so on and so forth. DNA mutation and other mutations that scientists bring today, molecular evolution as they call it. Not necessarily. That's when it comes to biology. You come to, for example, economics. Today people teach the theory of interest. Interest. The whole financial theory today is based on what? Interest. So it is being taught as a law that this is the only way to have business. When in fact, not us. Interestingly enough, I was reading an article recently or talking to somebody about interest, not a Muslim. And he says that interest drains, sucks the blood Did any of the CEOs of the banks lose their homes? Did any of the people who made the laws lose their homes? Wasn't that the reason they had this movement, the 99% movement? Why did they have that movement? Because people were saying, we are the people, we lost our homes because of your decisions, and none of you was held accountable. People were sleeping in the streets. I remember, maybe 2010, 2009, I remember listening to the radio. They said in the month of February alone, 1 million people lost their homes. 1 million people in the United States alone, in 1 month. 1 million people had to go sleep in the street. That is the system. Why? Because people are greedy. They don't care about your background. Everybody's approved. The banks were giving loans, right, left, and center. Until there was no money, there was no cash, because everything was virtual. So the bubble burst. So interest is being taught as a theory. And you have people being confused with this. So someone might now ask, so what does Islam say then? We're not allowed to study evolution, we're not allowed to study these theories of economics, we're not allowed to study these philosophies and things. And the answer is, of course you are. But you need to protect yourself. Strengthen your aqeedah, strengthen your tawheed, strengthen your usul al-deen. Make sure that is strong. That's why Islam emphasizes on usul al-deen. That knowledge is good knowledge, usul al-deen. Once your foundation, usul al-deen, in religion, usul al-deen, we don't follow a marja. We have to believe in them, usul al-deen. So I don't believe Allah is one because my mujtahid says to believe in. No, that can't be. I have to be convicted. So usul al-deen, the 5 things that we have in the madhab of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, if you strengthen that foundation, you've protected yourself. Sometimes I worked one time in research, and next to my lab, there was a lab that studied hepatitis B, that virus. Some researchers were studying that. A criteria, before you study that virus, you have to be what? Immunize yourself. You have to be immunized before you go and study the virus. Because why? You might be contaminated. You might get contaminated. You might get affected. And it takes 6 months. I was talking to somebody. So for first 6 months, when a person joins that research group, for 6 months he cannot enter into the lab. They can't even get into the lab. Poor guy. So he has to read papers and prepare himself or do other work until he basically gets a booster shot, because they get a shot and then they get a second shot, a booster shot. 6 months later, and then only then they're allowed to study the research. So Islam says get immunized before you go in to the lab and study. Get immunized. Immunized with what? With your usul al-deen, aqeedah. Make sure it's strong. Make sure you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the best of your knowledge, of course. Nobody can understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but to the best that we as human beings can, from Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam and the Quran. And then you're ready. So this kind of knowledge is a knowledge that wal-'iyadu billah can backfire on the individual. One, it is knowledge that where a person, a alim, does not utilize this knowledge, so it's wasted, when it is a duty upon the scholar to teach. Second is a person whose niyyah is not genuine for the sake of Allah, by gaining knowledge to get position, to get respect. And third is a person who learns so that he can, wal-'iyadu billah, misguide people, to take people away from the right path. Such individuals, their knowledge, wal-'iyadu billah, can backfire. Such knowledge can become a foe, an enemy, wal-'iyadu billah, on the day of judgment. We pray to Allah, inshaAllah, to make us among those who seek the proper knowledge, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered in the Holy Quran, and to make us among those who follow the path of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and Ahlul Bayt شيعة محمد وآل محمد يا الله، واجعلنا من خدمة محمد وآل محمد المخلصين يا الله. اللهم اقض حوائج المؤمنين والمؤمنات، شافي وعافي جميع مرضى المؤمنين والمؤمنات. اللهم على الخصوص من أوصونا بالدعاء اقض حوائجهم، شافي مرضاهم، ارحمهم برحمتك الواسعة يا أرحم الراحمين. رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. اجزهما بالإحسان إحسانا وبالسيئات غفرانا. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج، واجعلنا من شيعته وأنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديك. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أرنا الطلعة الرشيدة والغرة الحميدة واكفنا أنوارنا بنظرة منا إليك. اللهم نقسم عليك بالزهراء فاطمة إلا ما رزقتنا شفاعة الزهراء يا الله يا الله يا الله، لقضاء الحوائج ولشفاء المرضى ولكشف هذه الغمة عن هذه الأمة ولتعجيل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان، وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات فسيما أرواح أموات الجالسين والحاضرين. رحم الله من يقرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة.